Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast. This episode is about how to be a leader throughout the holidays. It's not always easy, especially with complex family dynamics, but it's very important that you know how to take on that leadership role within the family and within your friend groups. Ron, how you doing?
I am doing great. As you can see, I'm getting a little gruffy. I've been lazy, but also not lazy. Doing a lot of
holiday
shopping,
stubble.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I'm really trying to take our advice from last week and just chill out and enjoy. I'm trying to do a little bit at a time instead of a mad rush. A lot of times I have a tendency, some things I don't procrastinate in, like work stuff, but Christmas gifts, things like that, I'm kind of known for that. And then I try to wrap everything. And this year I'm just trying to do better. I'm trying to do a little bit at a time and get it done. And I feel a lot more relaxed. So if that helps anyone, I know some people's schedule don't permit you to do that, but it does feel a lot better.
Yeah, no, that's good. I've started doing that over the years, I would say as well, where I'm starting earlier and not leaving it all to the end where I just get stressed out and it's not enjoyable. So I think that's incredible.
I always admired my mother. She's usually finished by the end of July. Christmas shopping, which blows my mind.
That's amazing. I swear my grandma from New York used to do that. And so I'd go visit in the summer and I'd open the drawer and I'd have an idea of what I was getting for Christmas. So this is the same grandma that got me the Aerosmith CD.
Yeah, you opened the drawer. We get it.
Yeah, I know. Nowadays, I actually appreciate a surprise, so I don't want any hints. Oh, okay. So we're going to dive into some stories. We have some submissions from listeners, and then we also have some personal stories that we're going to share on examples of a difficult family dynamic or something humorous or something slightly crazy, but then how we navigated through that. And then also some pointers on how to be that leader. I want to share something. This is a little off the cuff. It's an interesting story that I did a little report on the other day. Women are seeking a leader, and I would say a lot of people are, but women especially. And this story takes place in Japan. There's a gorilla that is being called the George Clooney of gorillas. And apparently women are finding him attractive. I don't know if it's the actual look that he's got going on. He is a good looking gorilla. I'll give him that. But women like that he has been deemed a great leader amongst his community and a great father. And it's really interesting because this one zoo in Japan is seeing a huge number of female visitors because of this one George Clooney gorilla. And when I was looking into it, I found the story humorous, a little shocking, slightly concerning also, but also I was like, you know what? People are seeking leaders, especially women are seeking a masculine man that can lead so much that they're turning to this gorilla for that piece. And that was my takeaway. Of course, I always go, way deeper into it than most people. But what are your thoughts on that, Ron?
Oh, I absolutely think, we've been talking with a lot of people who say if we, God forbid, had to go to war, they were talking about in World War II, young guys lying on their age to sign up to protect their country.
Yeah.
And now they're thinking about ways to get out of it. And so I think, we won't get political. Masculinity is definitely under attack. And I felt it. I've experienced it. And I do think it's creating that vacuum. And and that's how the gorilla, I can't think of his name, but I saw a picture of him.
It's like Sobani or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Oh, Sobani walks in and, it's probably a little humorous and it's, whispering back and forth, but I do think there's something underlying there that's possibly very true. I'm not saying these ladies want to hook up with a gorilla. Or maybe they do. AI, we did the AI. People are dating AI bots.
Yeah.
Gorillas. What's happened to us? We better get into the.
Oh gosh, getting to the meat and potatoes here. But seriously, it is a concern, and people are looking for leadership now more than ever. And so family dynamics, especially around the holidays, just because there's that added stress that you touched on earlier, and you're getting people together that might not see each other throughout the year, you're gonna have this potential for some issues within the family. And so it's important to be prepared for how are you going to handle it, and how can you set the tone, especially if you're the one hosting. You have to think about, how can I set the tone for a positive, um, low drama, if not drama free experience for everybody. And so before we dive into really how to exhibit that leadership, we do have a few stories from submitters on Christmases, or at least holidays, that they've experienced where there's either an element of humor or shock and awe. Do you want to read the first one, Ron?
Yeah, because I didn't want to tell a story about me. So
No, we'll go there. We're going there. There's shock and awe in that one.
all right, one Christmas Eve, this was a submission. One Christmas Eve when I was young, my little brother and I both heard a noise coming from the living room. We got out of bed and tiptoed down the hallway to discover our dad vacuuming the floor. He told us that the reindeer got into the house and pooped on the carpet. Of course, we believed the story. Years later, he revealed that he accidentally knocked the tree over when setting up our presents around the tree.
Nice.
And I think it's cool that kids, you want to believe it so bad. I remember we actually got on top of my house because you could climb out from the upstairs window. And me and a friend, we laid there and we were looking for Santa's sleigh. And we were convinced, if anything, if there was a star twinkle, we wanted to believe it so badly. We were looking for any signs, any evidence.
Oh my goodness. That's so cute. I have to say, my 9-year-old son, he still believes. And even though my daughter doesn't and his friends don't, he's like, nope, I'm not. I believe. And I'm like, all right, you keep that going as long. Yeah.
Keep that faith going.
And I'm not going to burst his bubble. I'm also, when he's ready, I'm definitely ready to jump in.
See, that's proof you're not a narcissist, because a narcissist would say, I'm not giving Santa credit for those gifts that I've paid for.
That's a really good point. Oh my gosh. That was one of our most popular episodes ever, was the narcissist. My boss is a narcissist.
Yeah.
So good. All right. So there's another one here. And then I have to share, oh my gosh, my favorite, of course, there's shock and awe involved, and then Ron needs to share his, but I'm going to share one here. A few years back, when my husband and I were dating, he bought the ring, wrapped it in a box and put it under the tree. Come Christmas Day, we were watching as everyone opened their gifts. I watched his dad pick up a box, opened it, and looked down at the gift he had just opened. Realizing what it was, he silently passed it over to my now husband with a uh-oh expression on his face. My now husband looked into the box with no expression or words and handed it to me as is. I saw the ring and thanked him, confused. Then, later in the car, as we drove to my parents' house, he looked at me and said, "That was supposed to be an engagement ring, Perfect proposal. Thank you for that one, Caitlin. Oh, I'm curious how that one played out.
Yeah, no kidding. And I've
what
opened
a bummer.
I've opened the wrong gifts, and of course had people open the wrong gifts before. But this is the beauty of my ability, as I said last week, to wrap a gift, is there's no doubt that it's for me. I don't even have to put from dad, when you look at it, you go, that's from dad. But remember, I bought the bags this year. I'm on top of it.
All right.
You tell yours first.
I think people need to invest in some labels. So I don't know what's going on here. Okay. So this one, get ready for it. He didn't give me too much detail, but what he gave me is enough. So he said, this is from one of my Instagram followers. He said, one Christmas, his aunt announced that she was leaving one of his uncles for another, and they were all there. Can you even? I had to read that twice. So he's one of his uncles. She's divorcing and going with another uncle.
I have so many questions I'd like to
I
ask
know,
him.
I know. I'm like, wow, that
Like,
one
did you
takes
do
the
that
cake.
after dinner, before dinner? Do you?
Was it when you're all sitting around the tree opening gifts?
And was it really the right time?
So many things wrong
Was
with
one
that.
uncle relieved, the other uncle happy, vice versa? I have
I
so many
know.
questions.
I know. That's like literally insane. So, Ron, we need to hear your story.
Oh, okay. All right. So one of the stories that I'm going to tell first, and we mentioned on our promo that I broke the law. So I'm gonna confess. I think the statute of limitations is up.
Yeah, it is.
But if you know my mother and you're listening, do not share this. So one Christmas, I wasn't the best gift giver. Number one, I was broke. This one happened during college. So no, this one, yes, during college. So
This is last year.
yes.
I'm just joking.
So I go shopping. I buy my mom this blouse, and it turns out like it was my best year ever, and still is to this day. It's in the record books. Like I got good gifts, and they all fit. So my mother is just in awe of this blouse that I bought. She tries it on, fits perfectly, and to be honest, she's probably stunned. And so she keeps asking me questions. And I'm getting a little nervous at this point. She goes, "How did you know my size?" Well, I can't, for a podcast, it's hard for me to use the right adjectives here, but my mom is well endowed. She's up top. So, and she's kind of short. So it was a little challenging buying her gifts. So
Yeah.
I tried to avoid telling her, but she goes, "How did you know? How did you get this to fit?" And I said, "Well, I got a store attendant to help me." And she goes, "Yeah, but what did you say?" And I finally just said, "Mom, I told him you were voluptuous." And we just bursted out laughing. So it still comes up all these years
Oh my
later.
gosh.
Like when I get her something that fits, I said, "Yeah, you're still voluptuous." And I told them, I let them know.
Oh,
So
that is so funny.
we can say that word at Christmas and the family knows what it means.
That is
So
hysterical. So
I
she
did-
was really digging into that. She wanted to know, were you like peeking in my
She was so
closet?
stunned. And
or-
I don't know if that's because I was so pathetic at buying gifts or I don't know. But anyway,
Oh my gosh.
all right, time to confess. This is sad. It's really sad. And I don't remember the specifics but I came home. I know it had been snowing. If there is any excuse for me, if there's any underlying factors, mitigating factors that we used to say in federal law enforcement. So I get home and I've got to get my mom, dad, and sister a Christmas gift. So I go to a convenience store. But in the country, the convenience store did have a little more items than, just food. So I go in, I think I bought my dad either a flashlight, a tape measure, something, get my sister something. Anyway, I write a check. So I'm pretty proud of myself. I even, wrap the gifts, I think, in my usual terrible wrapping, but I wrapped them. So long story short, they opened the gifts and they seemed to go over okay. It was pretty good for me. And then a couple of days, I'm home for a few days. So a couple of days, my dad comes in. He goes, "Hey, we need to go up to this store." My dad knew the owner, of course. And he said, "Apparently your check bounced.
Oh.
And we're going to have to go up and make it right." So my dad, I wrote a fraudulent check. My dad drives me up, pays the amount that was needed. I was $2 short in my checking account. And by the way, Kristin, it's been a few years ago, so the whole thing was under $20, like the 3 gifts.
Nice.
So the check bounced, and I don't know how many days it took. Maybe it was a week, but I was still home. So I have to go up. We have to pay for it, make it right. I apologize, which the guy was so cool about it. He's like, "Yeah, you did, You didn't know how much you had in
Oh
your
my
account. It wasn't like
gosh.
today where you have apps and you know to the minute.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was very embarrassing and
That
humiliating.
would
That's
be.
why I probably bought a good gift the next year, the voluptuous gift, because I was so embarrassed
To make up for it.
to
Because
make
your
up
dad
for it.
pretty much bought his own Christmas present. Well, okay, I'm
Oh,
going to make you feel better right now. So, as a longtime banker, it wasn't fraudulent. It was just your check bounced.
okay.
So, if you feel a little better, there's no
Thank you for
fraud
telling me
involved.
that. But there are actual, and it's not amounts over 1,000. I know that's a felony in most states, but
Yeah.
there was fraudulent checks. There was, we used to call it bad checks, by the way. When I grew
Yeah.
up, you wrote a bad check. But
Right.
there were some of these. It's so interesting how different states call their laws, like the way they named them, because there's one called theft by deception. And I think that
Oh.
involves, and I'm sure you know what check kiting is.
Oh,
I worked
yeah.
some of those, and maybe we'll talk about that sometime. It's a little more complex, but to explain. But yes, there were some very unique names, and I thought writing a fraudulent check was against the law. Am I wrong on that? At least I thought it was in
Fraudulent.
Virginia.
No, it is. But fraudulent is if you're writing, if it's somebody else's check.
You're right.
Yeah, not your own. So
I
since it's your own,
intended to commit fraud.
the
I
worst
did
you're going to
not.
get is a return check fee
Yeah,
in an
I thought I
overdraft,
had more than
potentially.
$9 in my. Let's move on, Kristin.
Yeah, no. Well, it's interesting, the check kiting. I'm just going to, because we might have some people scratching their heads, just a brief explanation. It's basically where you have multiple checking accounts at multiple banks. So say you have one Bank of America checking account, one Wells Fargo checking account. It's where you're writing a check from your account at Wells Fargo, depositing it into the Bank of America account, knowing you don't have that money at Wells Fargo, and then you're spending it before it gets returned, because now it's a lot more difficult now because things clear so fast. Check
Yeah.
21 made it really fast. But yeah, before then it took 3 to 5 days for things to return. And so people would kite all the time, where you're basically floating from one account to the other. And it's just this ongoing. That is definitely illegal. But
It's taken advantage of, like you said, it did almost go away. I didn't see it in the later part of my career, but you're
right.
using the same money multiple times is an
Right.
easy way to try to explain it. But
Right, exactly.
when I've explained that to people, they still struggle, but you just have
I
money in
know,
one
it's-
account and you use it over
yeah.
and over. And I
Yeah,
had,
'cause-
by the way, I had some people who are pretty masterful at this game
people are,
of moving money
yes.
around. And
yeah.
but anyway, let's talk a little bit about leadership during the holidays. What do you got for us, Kristin?
So leadership within the family, it's really, it's critical for several reasons. So it fosters a sense of direction and purpose. And when family members, especially parents, show clear leadership, they can effectively guide the family towards these shared goals and values. And, the leadership involves planning with a purpose, understanding the family's collective and individual needs, and then putting time aside and resources aside accordingly, right? So it's all about making conscious choices in how the family functions and interacts, rather than letting the external factors dictate these dynamics. And I think the perfect example is, something I touched on last week is I've made the decision not to have my full-time job at the bank any longer, right? And so what that does is that takes away this full-time income that I once had. And it does change our lifestyles. And this was a decision we made as a family, and we're sticking by it. It's been wonderful for the family dynamic. But what I need to do, and what we've needed to do as a family, is said, okay, we don't need to buy as many Christmas presents, right? And we've explained it to the kids and the why behind it. I really find that open communication is really powerful. It's like, our goal is for me to be home and playing a huge role in your upbringing and in your education. And with that means these are some things that are going to change on, right? We're not going to eat out as much, and we're not going to buy you as many gifts as you once had. And if you're open about that communication and you talk about the end goal, then it makes the deliveries so much smoother, and then the response that you're going to get from your family is going to be a non-event, or it should if it's communicated properly. What are your thoughts on that, Ron?
Yeah, I've got several thoughts, but I'll be brief. But I always use the 5 Ps of perfection. Pre-planning prevents poor performance. And I think during the holidays, because you're relaxed, you don't shave like me, you get so relaxed that you forget to have a plan. Now, don't get me wrong. I know you
Yeah.
plan dinners and when we're going to meet
Yeah.
at this person's house and that, but I'm talking about a plan like for the kids and how we're going to try to, set aside some time for those Christmas movies we talked about last week. So it is fluid. And as children get older in the family, it changes some of the dynamics. We talked about last week, people pass away. It's okay to talk about them. There's all these, you can't just make a plan. It's fluid. And then you
Right.
got those weird family members that you have to deal with. So a leader will have a plan, know that the plan is fluid, but also help coach other people through the process. When you see something going awry, like how many times have you seen kids, they're overwhelmed, they get angry and they're throwing it, and then you just take them in a room, you chat with them, you get them calmed down, and you
Right.
go back to business. And sometimes, you have to do those kind of things. You have to know when to stay, when to
Yeah.
leave, and navigate the situation. Um,
Right.
I'm just so blessed because we just that's just my immediate family, even my family in Virginia, my parents, my sister, we just all get along so well. I'm so blessed because I
Yeah.
hear so many nightmares. And then, of course, me
Mm-hmm.
and my daughters, my ex-wife comes, we celebrate on Christmas
That's
Day. Like, it's
wonderful.
great. It's wonderful,
Yeah.
but it's not the case for everyone. So have
No.
yourself prepared, and
Right.
extra spiked eggnog is probably not the answer.
Yeah, no, I think that is great because I've shared briefly. We've had some family issues, and I had a sister who was a drug addict for 10 years, and before she went to jail for almost 3 years, she's very open about her story. She actually does speaking engagements and talks about it, so she doesn't mind if I bring it up. But we had some really hairy holidays and some blowouts, right? So I think, and I've reflected a lot on how maybe I could have handled it differently, right? But it was a very difficult situation. So a lot of families, especially nowadays, addiction is something that is so prevalent. And what you want to do, I would say my number one bit of feedback for people that have that person in the family that either has addiction issues, mental health issues, or is just an a-hole, you have to go into it knowing what they are and what they're capable of, and understanding what can happen with that. And then you want to be mindful of how you plan on reacting. So you want, if you can, sweep some things under the carpet, especially if you're only going to be together for 8 hours on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. Just try your best to be patient and keep it as low key as possible. If you need to remove yourself from the situation, that's something, right? So it's just, if you can plan that out and kind of visualize what your night's going to look like, and just understanding the realities of who's there and what they're bringing, things can go a lot smoother. And it's not always easy, but if you can just say it is what it is, they are who they are right now, I guarantee you things will go better for you.
And sometimes you may need to explain to your children if you do have that weird person or someone that
Mm-hmm.
concerns you, you might have to explain that they're a little different. And
Yeah.
if anything really odd happens, come let me know, that type thing, or let us know.
Yeah.
So, Kristin, you said a lot of things, but let's touch quickly on addiction. I was at a family gathering, not my immediate family, but I saw how alcohol eroded any of the deliberate, intentional intimacy with this people's children. They were
Mm.
so drunk. The kids were doing whatever, opening gifts and then playing with the gifts, or any of that. But it was all selfishness. But I will tell you,
Mm-hmm.
when I first became a probation officer, I did a little stint studying at a addiction facility.
Mm.
And one of the ways they explained alcohol was the dual conversation. So you could be, if you've got an alcoholic, let's use a male, for example, so or a dad. The dad's sitting there and the kid's opening a gift. So one conversation is, this is the gift, I got the kid, but there's always a secondary conversation. And we're going to be old fashioned because it was way back when they told the story. They want to get out to their vehicle so they can get a drink of liquor that's hidden in their truck. So, you can modernize that where they're wanting to sneak off to a bar, whatever they want to do, but there's always that duality and it keeps people from focusing. So
Right.
in a milder form, I think we get so caught up in ourselves, but I think there's nothing better that we can do is, not only is it exciting to give a child a good gift, but maybe play with them a little bit or watch them play their video game or whatever it is. But you got to be deliberate. Make a little bit of time for that. Now, the parents should enjoy Christmas as well. And if you're with other families, you enjoy yourself, but always stay aware. Number one, protect your kids. Number two is find a place where you have that family time, watching movies and, enjoying some time together.
Right, right. Absolutely. I think that's important. I like that you said protect your kids, because if this person that we're talking about or people are so off the cuff to where they have an element of danger or there's just so many directions we could go in with that. You should probably either if they're mild and you can just deal with them for a few hours, that's one thing. But if they have those elements of danger where they could be danger to themselves or to your family, you can, by all means, you can just let them know they're not welcome, right?
Yeah,
Until
and
they
you,
turn
you
it
might want to
around.
be careful with your wording, but you let your kid know, this person.
Yeah, yes,
But if you don't
absolutely.
know and you see, Uncle Harry going to where the children
Of course, you
are,
had to say Harry. Gosh.
I just saw a mayor. I
Oh.
saw a guy running for mayor. I don't know if you saw it. He had passed, but they were wanting to name a building after him, but his name was Harry Balls, and so it was.
No.
No, it's a true story. You can.
Oh
It's got
my
to be true. I saw it on
gosh.
Google.
Change your name. Goodness
So,
gracious.
well, it was spelled a little different.
Oh.
But anyway, you might want to warn your kids about this relative but also be alert enough that if this relative is, going over to where the children are or just
Yeah.
engaging in language that you don't approve of, then intervene in some way. But you do have to be
Yeah.
a little alert with some family
Yeah.
members. Everybody's got that
Right.
weird uncle or weird aunt or whatever. So, all right.
Wait, I have to. I don't think he listens to the podcast. My husband has an uncle who thinks he's a cowboy from I'm talking like he moved to New Mexico and he loves to wear leather chaps
I knew you were
and,
going to
and
say chaps.
spurs. Yeah, no, he
And
really
his first
does.
name's Harry.
You would think, no, it's not Harry, but he literally walks around like he'll go to the Walmart wearing his chaps and spurs and cowboy boots. Like you would think he's fresh off a movie set. So I've actually never met him in person, but I've heard stories and I'm like, man, it's kind of fabulous.
I'm digging that. I think I'm going to buy me some
Right?
chaps.
And spurs. Wear your spurs to Walmart. Oh, goodness gracious. So yeah, that's his weird uncle.
Guys, Kristin and I love doing this. We do. But we're going to make this one short because it's holidays and we're so grateful that you took a little bit of time to join us. So we're going to just fire off a few things. Most of them are pretty self-explanatory. We've touched on some things last week, but just think about it. You're the leader in your family. That may be you and your spouse or even if you're a single parent, you're the leader. Remind yourself that. Don't let your kids overtake you. Don't let things happen that you're very uncomfortable with. You're the leader and take that role, embrace it. And so first is plan and coordinate. Just have a general plan. We know it's fluid. We know things can happen, but have a general plan going in. Pre-planning prevents poor performance. Try to say that after some eggnog. Let's just alternate, eggnog. Kristin. What else you got?
No, I like it. And that's, oh my gosh, if you've seen the Office episode of The Dinner Party where they didn't have, I mean, the planning goes into food too. Imagine going to someone's Christmas Eve and they haven't planned out one, like what they're going to eat, but the timing behind it. You will lose your audience if you don't have your meal and a food situation put together. So that plays into that as well. So the other thing, foster inclusion. That sounds so corporate, but make sure everyone feels included, especially those who might feel left out or those that are new to a group. So I'm such an includer. I don't know, Ron, have you ever experienced where you invite, this is generally in the office setting, but you've invited somebody to go to lunch because the group is going, and then you have someone go, why'd you invite them?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. And I'm like, I'm not going to be the jerk that excludes somebody. I'm not in the business of making people feel bad about themselves. But so that's what this is all about. Don't make people feel bad just because they're not in that little
Kristin,
inner circle.
Talking about inclusion, I'll tell you how to exclude is really is this triggers me, but I had someone tell me this the other day. They went out with another couple and they got in an argument. There is nothing that is more cringeworthy than some couple who gets in a fight in front of everyone, by the way. They can't go off, and you're better off to leave if you are having problems with your spouse or significant other. But that's a routine thing that I've seen happen. But I heard a horror story the other day. A couple thought they were going to double date and the other couple fought the whole time, and they were so uncomfortable. Yeah. Absolutely. So yes, to foster inclusion, that's the way you foster exclusion. But Kristin, one time, it was a little odd. I never thought I'd see myself in this situation, but my youngest daughter lived with me. I'd recently divorced, and there was not an opportunity to go home. So I actually did the Friendsgiving, and I used to kind of belittle it a little bit. Not the fact that friends were getting together, that they made it sound like it was family, but I have to tell you, it was pretty special and pretty unique. And we used the community center at the bottom in an apartment. Now, a lot of it's what you make of it, because it certainly wasn't in someone's home. But all of us friends, brought a different item. The dinner turned out to be absolutely great. And the time. So people are so transient. They live in places. You got to make the best of it. And that's what a lot of people are doing right now that may be listening to this podcast. You're going to make the best of it with friends.
Absolutely. And you can definitely do that. It doesn't have to be, that's something I've always struggled with, is like doesn't have to be the idyllic setting and, everything. Think about the people you're around. That's really what matters, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ron.
Well, I was just going to say, when I said be the leader, that also includes sometimes the mediator between siblings, between other family members. Sometimes you have to mediate, but don't shy away from that role. Even if there's a couple arguing, you might need to be the one to say, hey, can I talk to you? Or you might take one person in another room, but stand up and don't let Christmas get ruined for everyone. So be a mediator.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. Generally, and the mediator, would you say, like you're saying, pull them aside? I think mediating outside of the main show is always going to be
I learned
best.
that when I was a cop. I learned that early. If there's a domestic dispute, you got to separate them. You don't want to get to the point where you can't get to your partner if they need you, but you don't want to leave them in the room and try to mediate. It's not a good time.
Exactly. Yeah. And wait, to your point, I just want to say, to your point about the couple fighting, like when they go on a double date, there's so many factors there. But I know somebody, they were just telling me that happened to them. And they're like, we're never asking them to go to dinner again.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. You end up, you want to act like a child. You're going to then be excluded like a child. And the other part is it's selfish, because you have someone, like for us, we don't get out on dates very often. And so when you do, and you're choosing to include some friends, and they basically, you're eating their shit. If they're fighting right in front of you, you just ate their shit, right?
No, it's true.
So, and that's not cool. And so, you're going to get yourself uninvited. That is for dang sure.
I'm glad you said it. It's selfish. But here's the other thing, and this is a side note, but your spouse or significant other. Don't say things, don't degrade that person in front of the couple unless you all have this funny banner that you've agreed upon. But I've seen things like that play out. One time I knew there was a guy who didn't have he wasn't handy. So when they visited another couple, the guy, that's what he did. Like he could build, he could do anything. So the wife starts degrading her husband. Why can't you build this? Why can't you do that? You can't ever do that stuff.
No.
And that goes husband to wife, wife to husband,
Yeah.
significant other to significant other. Don't do things that's going to set them off, because Kristin, I'm so glad you used the word. It's selfish. It's
It is.
selfish.
It
You're
is.
ignoring another couple. And it's interesting because this couple told me the same thing the couple told you. We will never go out with them again.
Yeah, seriously, because you're eating it the whole time. That's one thing. And I think, honestly, Ron, I think 90% of people listening have probably done this to their partner. And that is degrading them, right? But even if it's, oh, I'm joking. Okay. But actually, who ends up looking bad is the person doing it. It's not the partner.
That's
They
right.
want to make the husband that's not very handy look bad. No, you look like the asshole.
That's exactly
what
right.
you're doing. So knock it off. And you want to try to castrate a man. When a man feels threatened, when his masculinity feels threatened, you have just completely damaged your relationship, and you have to work very hard to get it back. So I was not always perfect, Ron, and I've done a lot of growing in our marriage in the last 3-4 years, and I can speak to it. So don't do that.
Well, I think I'm a prideful guy, but I think if I pinpointed, I never talk about, when I was married or anything, but I'm just saying if I pinpointed something that affected me more deeply than anything else, it was to be degraded in front of other guys or other people. There may be pride involved, but it's the reality. So you got to know the reality of your spouse. So enough on that, but I hope that helps someone. And if you get caught in that situation, step in, separate them.
Yeah. We talk about the weird uncle, but maybe it's the married couple hosting the party.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and Michael and Jan, if you love The Office, the episode that she's talking about, oh my God, the dinner party, it is unbelievable.
So
it paints a clear picture of what it looks like when couples make everyone uncomfortable. All right, Kristin, go ahead.
Okay. I love this one. So it's encourage participation. And that's something where, when people are coming to your party and they're like, what can I bring? What can I do? You may think your instinct may be to, oh, nothing. I have it handled, which is great. Generally, though, you want people to feel like they're part of it. And so it depends on what type of party you're throwing, but you could get everyone involved in the preparations. Maybe you ask, maybe you have everything there, but you're going to ask for someone to help you chop onions right? Like there's things that you can do so that everyone gets that bonding time and they're working together versus you in the kitchen and everyone else is separated while you're trying to do everything on your own. So,
Chris, I love that you said it, because I think people feel, like you said, they don't want to obligate someone if they're new, but really that means you're a part of it. I went to a Christmas party, and when people were enjoying what I brought, it made me feel good. So anyway, I brought Doritos, and they were dipping them. And I just felt so good,
Lord.
Kristin.
You felt so
really
good.
Did. They were.
Oh my gosh.
But the philosophy behind what you said is very true. You want to make someone feel welcome, have them bring something and participate. And by the way, it's cool to announce, like, whoever, Kristin made this bean casserole, whatever, things like that, unless it's terrible.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. My husband told me, hopefully you find this weird too. Maybe it's like your family staple, but he's like, I was in the precinct the other day and probably somebody's wife had either sent the husband with food or brought it in. It was literally green onion with a piece of salami wrapped around it. It's not weird or what? Just a straight up non-cooked green onion with salami wrapped around it.
Yeah, there's probably some issues there. I kind of know of wrapping salami, bacon, those kind of things. But there's probably more going on there than meets
I
the
was
eye.
laughing so hard. I'm like, that is so, it's funny. It just shows how some things can kind of backfire on you.
Hey, a good practical joke. Send Dave that one day. It would be great.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
goodness gracious. And then, right, you know what he's done in the past? When I've maybe baked something that wasn't up to his standards, he's like, I just run into the precinct, dump it, and run off before anyone can see that it was me. And I'm like, maybe that's what they did with that onion wrap. But anyways, I don't know how I got off on that.
We got a couple more.
Yeah.
My favorite, spread positivity. We say negativity spreads like a cancer. So does positivity. Be that
Mm-hmm.
person, walk in with a smile, and try to enjoy this moment. And I always say this in young leaders: positivity is like a magnet. You're going to
Yes.
attract all different types. You have to learn to navigate those types, but it's going to draw people. And again, Kristen, I was just going through social media, which I've done very little. So if you haven't seen many posts from me, I've taken a step back for the
Good for you.
holidays. But I did look at something last night, and I saw where someone screenshotted other people, someone like a boyfriend or something, and I'm like, oh, don't do that. But
Wait,
people,
what did they do?
well, they were basically making their. This was a girlfriend boyfriend. They were making their boyfriend look terrible by screen. They posted screenshots of their conversation.
Oh, oh
And
no.
but also listen to the man. You can just tell when people are angry or insecure and all that. Just don't do
Yeah.
that. I know they tell you
No.
to be real on social media, but listen, spewing your vomit
No.
all over everybody is not being real. You're just making people miserable, and it's selfish, as Kristen
Yeah,
said.
no one wants
But
that.
if you're positive at work, it's gonna. I think that if people ask me the key, I got promoted a lot, not boastful, but I did. And I think it's because I had an optimistic outlook. I was solution
Mm-hmm.
minded. I treated people with respect. And
Yeah.
I think placed myself in a position that I was very competitive to get promoted.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's huge. It's so huge. I could go into that very deeply, but you're so right. So yes, positivity is huge. And you think about people when I'm looking for friends, right? Because I never shut the door. I'm never like, I have enough. I'm always looking to have new friendships.
Not me.
I'm not looking for a Debbie Downer. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
know Ron doesn't want any new friends.
No, I've got
So
one opening for 2024.
what? No. Well, sometimes mine just, literally my mom met this gal and she was like, you would really like her. I think you two should be friends. So she gives me this lady's phone number. She was right. I just went to her holiday party the other day. So thanks, Mom, for sourcing friends for me. But no. So anyways, yeah, positivity is huge. The next one, show empathy and support, especially, we talked about addiction and how you can just have issues within the family and within your friend groups. But be attentive to the needs of your family and friends. Offer support and understanding, especially to those who might be going through some tough times. And really leading through the holidays, the whole gist is it's about creating a joyful, inclusive, and memorable experience for everybody involved. And it's possible, folks. It really is.
It is possible. And again, even in difficult circumstances, you lead, on the Forward Operations website. It basically says we've never needed courageous leaders more than we do now. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you got to be that person. You step in and take the lead. And it's okay. You don't have to be the leader all the time, but you might have to lead during this time.
Yeah.
So, Kristen, just to reminisce very briefly, I'm so grateful. We know there's a lot of challenges in the world, but this podcast has been a blessing for me, and it's given me an outlet just to discuss things and to have people who are interested in it. It's so very
Yeah.
cool. So that's a wonderful Christmas blessing, I think. I know for me personally, and I know you feel the same way because we talk about it off the air. We know there's thousands of podcasts, but people have
Mm-hmm.
chosen to listen to us, and we are very excited to bring some really cool content in 2024.
Yeah.
We've said it over and over. Our planner is on Amazon, the Forward High Performance Planner. I think that's a great gift to give someone or to get yourself. And Kristen, I am getting to I'm booked in January. I'm getting to put that in. I've got 2 other
Yay.
meetings, so I'm getting ready to start writing in the Forward High Performance Planner. And by the way, as we are launching Forward Operations in a broader scale in January. So Kristen, you're probably going to have to go back to working a lot more. So you need to warn
All right.
people
Good.
from
That's
your
okay.
coaching and your speaking and your emceeing. By the way, that's really
Yes,
cool.
yes, exciting. Yeah, who would have known? I love emceeing. So, very fun. Well,
It's definitely cool.
yeah, it is. And I just want to say, to your point, this podcast has really served a huge purpose for me as well. I think about even in like gymnastics, I work so hard for all these skills. And then as soon as you turn 18 and your high school gymnastics is over, if you're not going to do college gymnastics or the Olympics, you're done, right? And so all
It's
your
true.
skills just sit there. And the nice thing with this podcast is you and I both have these extensive leadership careers, and you're using them and I'm using them within reason, but it's such a nice outlet to be able to talk about everything that we've learned and applied and put it into this podcast so that our skills that we've honed don't sit dormant.
That's exactly right. Chris and I've talked offline of how much we've learned because we do research
That
for this,
too.
and there's things
Yeah.
that I've learned. And maybe we can end in this, but I heard a guy say, I always say be a lifelong learner. It's in my online courses and when I talk to people. But I love this. This guy said, always pretend to be a beginner. And
That's
he said,
wonderful.
you will absorb so much more. And I got a chill when he said that. I'm like, oh my God, that's it. Because I used to watch seasoned people stroll into meetings and they already know everything and all that. But if you walk in as a beginner, and lastly, I'm reading When the Game Was Ours, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. And Kareem Abdul-Jabbar sometimes was difficult to deal with. And he didn't treat fans very well, things that Magic always did. He was always there. But they said in his final couple of years, the leadership role was given more to Magic. And they said that he would come in for game to watch other games, taped games to study other teams. He would just sit in the back. And the last 2 years, he went to the front seat. And they knew he was passing the baton. And he was acknowledging that he needed to really focus because he didn't have the skills that he once had. But if we could be that person on the front row instead of the back row, you'll grow so much more.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Profound. Well, this has been a great episode, and we're going to transition out of the holiday topics for the next one. But hopefully you've listened to this and you can apply it in time for your holiday family gatherings.
Yes. And the word of the day is voluptuous.
Oh, yes.
All right. Be the leader.
Go
ahead. My poor
I
mom.
just said your poor mom.
Be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.